On my 30th birthday, Ethan handed the first slice of cake to his new intern assistant Liv standing beside him. I immediately filed for divorce. Over a piece of cake? He sneered. Yes. Ethan's lips curled coldly. You want to make a scene? Fine. Don't come crawling back later. 7 years of marriage had convinced him I couldn't survive without him. He'd even placed bets with friends. She'll come begging within 3 days. He'd boasted. 3 days turned to 6. When I never appeared, Ethan finally snapped. Earlier that night, my hand instinctively reached out when Ethan sliced the first portion. But he pivoted, offering the plate to Liv instead. Here's that strawberry cake you kept talking about. Liv accepted it without hesitation. Under Ethan's gaze, she took a delicate bite of frosting. Her eyes suddenly sparkled as she looked up. Oh my God! This is incredible! Best thing I've ever tasted. Ethan's stoic expression cracked. A faint smile emerged as he teased. That good? Try it! Before I could blink, Liv scooped cake with her used spoon and held it to his lips. My nails dug into my palms as Ethan leaned down to accept the bite. He'd always hated sweets. Years ago during late-night work sessions, I'd slipped candy into his mouth despite protests. Enough! He'd spat it into the trash, fixing me with that icy stare. No more games. Vivian. This is my hard limit. Now watching him savor Liv's offering. That ironclad rule dissolved like sugar in coffee. Well? Liv nibbled her lip anxiously. Ethan pretended to consider, then melted into affectionate amusement. Not bad. Told you. She beamed, plucking the cake's strawberry. This is amazing too. Here. I'm not dead yet. My voice sliced through their moment. Ethan finally remembered my presence and that this was supposed to be my birthday celebration. Here. Vivi. He clumsily offered a larger slice. All yours. I crossed my arms. I don't eat leftovers. Our decade-old ritual lay shattered. He'd always given me first taste of everything. From champagne to street food. Our silent understanding now lay in crumbs beside Liv's half-eaten dessert. Don't be difficult. Ethan forced a laugh. This costs 6 months' salary from that Parisian pastry chef you like. When I remained unmoved, Liv timidly extended her plate. I'm so sorry. Vivian. It's still clean. I only used my spoon. You think your germs matter? I snapped. This is my cake. Since when do I need your charity? The young intern shriveled under the glare of 30 party guests. Tears welled in her eyes as Ethan stepped between us. His protective stance answering every unspoken question about where his priorities now lay. Her big eyes immediately welled up with tears. All right. Vivian. Ethan probably couldn't bear seeing Liv upset. Cutting in. It's just a piece of cake. Was it necessary to be so harsh? Meeting Ethan's gaze, I forced a smile. Absolutely necessary. I extended my hand toward Liv. Vivian. What do you think you're doing? Ethan barked, thinking I meant to harm her. He even grabbed Liv's wrist protectively, pulling her behind him. I didn't touch her. I simply flipped over the sickeningly sweet cake in her hand. If I can't have it, neither can anyone else. As the cake splattered on the floor, Liv burst into humiliated tears. I'm sorry, Ethan. She sobbed. This is all my fault. I shouldn't have come here and ruined Vivian's mood. Liv. None of this is your fault. Ethan tried comforting her, but Liv dashed out of the private room. Ethan. If you take one step out that door, we're getting divorced. I stated calmly when he moved to follow. He froze mid-stride, whirling around with disbelief. What did you say? I pressed my lips together, holding his gaze. Are you seriously threatening divorce over fucking cake? Yes. Ethan scoffed bitterly. Vivian. Have I spoiled you too much these years? Liv grew up in rural poverty. She's never tasted decent desserts. Was sharing one slice worth this melodrama? Keep pushing like this and you'll regret it when there's no way back. Every guest stared at me with identical judgment, the same look Ethan wore. They all thought I was being unreasonable. Wordlessly, I produced the prepared divorce papers and pen. Sign here. His face darkened as he studied me for several heartbeats. Fine. Have your tantrum. He snatched the documents and scrawled his signature within seconds. Pausing at the door, he threw over his shoulder. Don't come crying about regrets later like you always do. Posted 2 hours ago by Liv, best boss ever treated me to the Ferris wheel I've always dreamed of riding. He says if fireworks don't fix your problems, watch them twice. Thank you, Mr. Collins, may you live forever and grow your empire so I can be your assistant for life. Sparkling heart. The distressed Liv had smiled through tears after Ethan used his wealth to commandeer an entire Ferris wheel and multiple fireworks displays just for her. Her social media exploded with 9 grid posts. Though Ethan's face never appeared, his wrist, bearing the faded red bracelet I'd woven at 17 for his basketball championship, featured in every shot. That worn thread contained prayers for his safety. He'd been so touched when I gave it, insisting on reciprocating. My teenage self had gestured at the romantic fireworks scene in our favorite drama. I want that, a whole night of fireworks just for us. I promise. He'd vowed, eyes earnest. When I make it big, you'll have the most spectacular show. He'd kept that promise years later. For someone else. I exited the app, only to receive a video. It showed Ethan drinking with his buddies, discussing my cake-induced divorce drama. Women are so damn needy. One complained. Always jealous over nothing. Don't understand the pressure we face. Gotta admit though, another said. Viv's got balls. Walking away from that cushy life? Ethan's sneer cut through. What can she possibly achieve without me? Every thread on her body comes from my wallet. The sycophants rushed to agree. True. Even if she was top of our class back then, you've kept her pampered and useless all these years. She's just another spoiled socialite now. Ethan took a satisfied sip of his red wine, convinced Vivian couldn't live without him. She'll come crawling back within 3 days, he declared with unwavering confidence. Watching his self-assured smirk through the video feed, I smiled bitterly. Little did Ethan know I wouldn't wait 3 days. By dawn, I'd vanish from his life forever. Returning to our riverside mansion felt like walking through a museum of dead dreams. The vaulted ceilings echoed as I packed 2 modest suitcases, pitifully small containers for 8 years of marriage. How ironic. Our first home had been a 400-square-foot studio where we'd huddled under shared blankets. His arms wrapped around me as he vowed through chattering teeth. I'll buy you the biggest house on Lake Michigan someday. He kept that promise. The Collins family fortune transformed us from ramen-eating newlyweds to River North socialites. Quit your gallery job, he'd insisted after closing his first billion-dollar deal. Tracing my curator calloused fingers. Let me take care of you, Vivi. Real power wives don't work. I'd melted then, mistaking control for devotion. Now his words coiled around me like gilded chains. My hand trembled as I placed our wedding photo face down in the suitcase. The cramp hit without warning, a white-hot knife twisting below my ribs. Darkness swallowed my vision as I fumbled for my phone. Code blue in maternity triage. Machines shrilled through my fading consciousness. I awoke to fluorescent lights and the steady beep of monitors. You're 8 weeks along, the obstetrician said, handing me a sonogram speckled with static. We nearly lost both of you tonight. My throat tightened. For years, we'd tried fertility charts and ovulation kits abandoned when Ethan's startup consumed our lives. Now life chose this cruel moment to bloom. The ER doors hissed open as I staggered out clutching the ultrasound. Familiar laughter froze me mid-step. Well, if it isn't Vivi. 3 of Ethan's golf buddies blocked the exit, reeking of bourbon and entitlement. Chasing after Ethan already? Man's psychic said you'd crack by Thursday. Their Rolexes glinted under the parking lot lights. I remembered these trust fund vultures circling Ethan's IPO success like sharks. Relay this to your precious Ethan. I spat, brandishing the medical report like a weapon. Tell him his trophy wife just filed for divorce, with $1 billion prenup clause in his heir in her womb. The color drained from their tanned faces as I strode past. For the first time in 8 years. I didn't glance back at the gilded cage disappearing in my rearview mirror. But Ethan Collins is busy right now and probably doesn't have time to see you. Who said I came to, before I could finish? A voice interrupted me. It was Olivia Reynolds. Her smile still carried an air of innocence, though her eyes glinted with barely concealed triumph. Vivian Peters. Are you here to see Mr. Collins? Liv tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I got slightly injured last night. Nothing serious. But Ethan insisted on bringing me to the hospital for checkup. I frowned. Injured? Vivian. You won't blame me, will you? Her cheeks flushed pink. I never meant to take Ethan from you. But he's just so good to me. I couldn't help myself. She loosened her collar slightly, revealing clusters of red marks along her neck. I kept telling Ethan to be more careful. But he wouldn't listen. How am I supposed to go to work tomorrow looking like this? You must have plenty of experience. Vivian. Could you teach me how to cover these marks? She widened her doe-like eyes. The picture of virginal embarrassment. The implication hit me instantly. But Liv had miscalculated. Ethan Collins' trashy behavior couldn't provoke me anymore. I chuckled coldly. How pathetic to parade around with someone else's discarded garbage like it's treasure. Guess you've never tasted anything decent. Her face paled dramatically. As I turned to leave, Liv suddenly grabbed my wrist. Stop pretending. Vivi, you think last night was the first time? Ethan's been mine for months. Every time he told you he was working late, he was with me. Miss Campus Queen? Wealthy socialite? Can't even keep your own man. Though speaking softly, her words carried clearly to nearby onlookers. Someone muttered, "Since when do homewreckers act this brazen?" triggering muffled laughter. I simply smiled, refusing to engage. But Liv grew increasingly agitated, fingers twitching like she might physically lunge. The moment I turned away, she seized my hand and violently shoved it against her own chest. With a theatrical shriek, she collapsed backwards onto the floor. Before I could react, Ethan's furious roar echoed through the corridor. Vivian. What the hell are you doing? His sudden appearance revealed Liv's entire scheme. The predictability almost bored me. What idiot would fall for such tired theatrics? Yet even as this thought formed, Ethan gripped my wrist painfully. Apologize to Liv right now. Me? Apologize to her? I stared incredulously between them. Ethan, have you lost your damn mind? Before he could respond, the sprawled Liv began sniffling. Please don't blame Vivian. I tripped on my own. It wasn't her fault. I saw her push you myself. Ethan snapped. And you're still defending her? Vivian looked up with teary eyes, her face the picture of pitiful vulnerability. You should blame me. She sniffled. I spoke carelessly and upset Liv. Ethan's heart clenched. He rushed forward, gathering the trembling woman into his arms. Are you hurt? I'll call the doctor immediately. Liv shook her head silently, though fresh tears pooled in her eyes. It's fine. Ethan. Don't trouble yourself. You've already been so kind. If only I were more considerate, I wouldn't cause you such problems. Breaking free from Ethan's embrace, she approached Vivian. Vivian, please believe I never meant any harm. If you hate me so much, I'll resign tomorrow. I'll disappear from Ethan's life forever. Just forgive me this once. A single tear traced down her cheek. Ethan's jaw tightened as he turned on Vivian. I thought my indulgence made you spoiled. But I never imagined you'd sink this low to win me back. Apologize to Liv now. Or forget about returning to the Collins estate as my wife." Vivian studied the man before her, barely recognizing him. How could the Ethan she once loved fall for such obvious theatrics? The realization struck like cold water. He wasn't fooled. This was simply his latest tactic to break her resolve. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Stepping forward, she delivered a stinging slap across Liv's porcelain cheek. The sharp crack echoed through the room. Before either could react, Vivian struck again, left cheek, then right palm raised for a third blow. "Ethan!" Liv shrieked, collapsing into hysterical sobs. "Save me!" Ethan's temple throbbed as he seized Vivian's wrist. "Have you lost your mind? Why the outrage?" Vivian smiled coolly. "You demanded an apology. This is my version. Satisfied?" Liv's tearful voice pierced the standoff. "Ethan, my face, am I disfigured?" "Stay here." Ethan growled at Vivian. "We're not done." Scooping Liv into his arms, he stormed toward the exit. "Before you go," Vivian called after them, "you might recall this hospital has security cameras everywhere. The footage will show exactly what happened." Ethan's steps faltered momentarily before he disappeared down the corridor. The hollow victory left Vivian's chest aching. When her phone chimed, she glanced at the screen through blurred vision. "The flight to Hangzhou departs in 6 hours. My doctor friend working there has already helped me schedule the abortion procedure." I take a deep breath. I won't keep Ethan's child. "Ethan, let's never meet again in this lifetime." While accompanying Liv back to her hospital room, she kept whimpering about pain. Every few minutes she demanded Ethan inspect her face for scars. Initially, Ethan found her vulnerable demeanor charmingly feminine. But as her complaints multiplied, his patience thinned. "Can't you relax? The doctor cleared you," he snapped. Liv bit her lip, tears welling. "I just worry, what if my face gets ruined? I'd embarrass you in public." Her voice cracked theatrically. Ethan sighed. After a prolonged silence, he finally sat on the hospital bed and pulled Liv into an awkward embrace. He didn't leave until midnight. The moment Ethan slid into his car, his secretary sent security footage from the hospital. He stared at the notification but didn't open it. No need, he'd known Vivian told the truth about Liv orchestrating the incident. He understood Vivian too well, violence wasn't in her nature. He'd only humored Liv's lies to teach Vivian a lesson after her recent rebellious phase. Seeing Vivian at the hospital today, Ethan had felt fleeting triumph. His theory proved correct, she couldn't truly leave him. Had they not encountered Liv, Vivian would have surely crawled back apologizing by now. The thought irritated him unexpectedly. Recalling how he'd neglected her birthday dinner yesterday, he realized her anger merely confirmed her devotion. A smirk curved his lips. He'd intended to prolong this game, but her obvious attachment softened him. Maybe he'd forgive her when she apologized later. Buoyed by this conclusion, Ethan drove home cheerfully. But upon entering the mansion, unease prickled his neck. The silence felt unnatural. When they'd first moved into this cavernous estate, Vivian had filled every corner with quirky thrift store finds and DIY projects to combat the emptiness. Since quitting her job, she'd transformed into the perfect homemaker, always waiting drowsily on the couch regardless of his late hours, mastering gourmet recipes through online tutorials. Each night brought new culinary creations tailored to his palate. Ethan used to cherish this idyllic life. What man wouldn't want a beautiful, devoted wife complementing his wealth and status? The cold marble foyer echoed his footsteps. No scent of braised short ribs wafted from the kitchen. No sleep-softened welcome home greeted him. Only sterile emptiness. At this thought, Ethan couldn't help but feel a pang of melancholy. Over the past year, his relationship with Vivian had hit rough patches. It started with the issue of children. They'd originally agreed against having kids, fearing they couldn't provide stability. Now that Ethan had made his fortune and Vivian stayed home, the nursery remained empty. His parents' constant nagging about grandchildren wore on him, and he'd taken to complaining to Vivian after every family dinner. The repeated arguments left Vivian tearfully hugging throw pillows on the couch, her silent weeping twisting Ethan's heart. Then came Liv. From her first day as his executive assistant, Liv had positioned herself a little too close during meetings, lingered a touch too long with coffee refills. Ethan knew the game. He'd clawed his way up corporate ladders and recognized ambition when he saw it. Vivian recognized it too. Their fights about Liv became volcanic. Ethan slamming doors and sleeping at the Ritz-Carlton for days. Yet he'd always return to find Vivian waiting with reheated cocoa vin, apologizing through red-rimmed eyes by the third sunset. Never past 72 hours. He'd grown accustomed to this dance, secure in the knowledge Vivian would never dare leave. The realization struck like ice water. The mansion's eerie silence stemmed from Vivian's absence. For 7 years, she'd materialized at the foyer within seconds of his key turning. Drowsy couch naps notwithstanding. Now only hollow echoes answered. Ethan's polished Oxfords clicked rapidly up the spiral staircase. Their walk-in closet gaped like a missing tooth. Vivian's cocktail dresses and cashmere sweaters vanished. No trace remained in the vanity or nightstands, not even her jasmine perfume atomizer. His hands trembled dialing her number. 3 rings before the robotic intercept. The number you've reached is unavailable. The memory of last week's confrontation flashed. Vivian producing divorce papers from her Birkin with unsettling readiness. His fist collided with the Carrara marble breakfast bar, knuckles splitting against cold stone. Impossible, he growled, sucking blood from his hand. Where would she go? The pampered socialite had never held a job, her credit cards all tied to his accounts. Days bled into weeks. Ethan maintained his boardroom rhythm, yet returned nightly to silent halls. No sleepy welcome home. Ethan from the chaise lounge. His burner calls went straight to voicemail. Texts to Vivian's girlfriends returned with blocked notifications. Still he persisted, typing into the void at 2 a.m., had enough yet? The blue bubbles glared back unread. I'll let the Liv thing slide, but you can't avoid coming home forever. Vivian, let's be real, you've got no money, no job, and you've been a trophy wife so long you've got 0 marketable skills. You really think you can survive out there alone? Mark my words, when you come crawling back, don't expect me to clean up your mess. Vivian, are you reading these? Answer me. Yet no matter how many texts Ethan sent, each ended with that glaring red exclamation mark. He burned through burner phones only to get blocked instantly. 2 weeks passed. No sign of Vivian. For the first time, Ethan faced the truth. She meant every word. Friends had been dragging Ethan out to drown his sorrows. He'd refused until tonight, hoping someone might have heard from Vivian. His stomach dropped when he saw Liv walk in. The vultures circled. Where's the missus? Someone jeered, topping off Ethan's whiskey. Still giving you the silent treatment? Ethan grunted into his glass. Feisty little thing. The guy smirked, nudging Liv toward the booth. Good thing we've got our Liv here. Fresh meat beats stale bread. Am I right? How'd you land all these hotties? Man? Liv slid beside Ethan like she owned the spot. Normally he'd let the banter slide. But tonight, with Vivian's absence clawing at him, every word felt like sandpaper on an open wound. His fist connected with the guy's skull before he realized he'd moved. Who the hell said you could trash talk Vivian? Ethan roared, pounding the whimpering figure curled on the sticky floor. Bones crunched. Blood speckled his Rolex. Ethan! Stop! Someone yanked his arm. We were paid to say that shit. It wasn't our idea. He froze, chest heaving. Paid by who? The terrified lackey's eyes darted across the room before landing on Liv. She backed against the pool table, hands raised. They're lying. I'd never. Bullshit. A voice cracked through the chaos. Liv promised us kickbacks once she became Mrs. Collins. Said we'd cash in after the divorce. The slap echoed like a gunshot. Liv clutched her cheek. Mascara bleeding. You hit me? Over that washed-up nobody? What's she got that I don't? I've wasted my best years waiting while you played house. Now that you're free. We're not divorced. Ethan's roar silenced the room. Deep down, he knew the truth. Those unsigned papers in his safe proved nothing. Vivian was his. Would always be his. But the empty penthouse and silent phones screamed otherwise. When Ethan signed the divorce papers handed to him by Vivian, he never imagined he'd end up collapsing on the floor months later. His phone buzzed, sending his heart racing until he saw Liv's name. Ethan, are you available? It's about Vivian. When she came to the hospital alone last month, I noticed something was off. I took the liberty of checking her medical records. She was pregnant. Meanwhile, Vivian's first stop in Hangzhou was the clinic. The abortion left her physically drained and emotionally raw, tears slipping through her resolve as anesthesia wore off. Yet within weeks, she'd rented an apartment, adopted the golden retriever she'd always wanted, and started her new job at Horizon Talent Agency. Her friend Jejia, the girl she'd sponsored through high school, had become an overnight sensation after being discovered on a film set. Vivi, you're gorgeous. Be my co-star, Jejia insisted during their reunion lunch. When Vivian declined, the young actress countered, then be my agent. Our company's losing a manager next week. The career shift challenged Vivian, but she thrived on reinvention. By the time Ethan tracked her down months later, she'd mastered contract negotiations and press tours. He appeared at her doorstep like a storm cloud, eyes lighting up with manic energy. Baby! I know everything now. Vivian's palm met his chest, maintaining distance as he babbled apologies. His hands closed around her wrists, trying to force her to slap him. Have you lost your mind? She snapped, wrenching free. Careful! He crooned, gaze dropping to her abdomen with grotesque tenderness. You shouldn't stress yourself, not in your condition. Ice flooded Vivian's veins. The delusion in his smile told her everything. He still didn't understand this was about far more than a pregnancy he'd never known existed. After a moment's thought, I realized Ethan had investments in every local hospital. Of course he'd uncover my pregnancy records. I sneered. What were you thinking, Ethan? Did you actually believe I'd carry your child after our divorce? The color drained from his face as he staggered backward, collapsing onto the floor. Honey, what are you saying? Isn't it obvious? I met his gaze coldly. I won't bear children for a man I don't love. The moment I arrived in Hangzhou, I had the abortion. Our baby's been gone for months. For a heartbeat, Ethan seemed to age decades. He crumpled against the wall, whispering hoarsely, You're lying. We prayed for that child for years, how could you? Funny. I interrupted. I've wondered the same about us. Those 7 years together, did they mean nothing when you started sleeping with Liv? Where was your loyalty as a husband? Your responsibility to our future family? If you'd remembered any of that, we wouldn't be here now. I turned away without waiting for a response. Don't come back. Next time, I'll file a police report. He remained rooted outside my apartment all night. Through the thunderstorm's fury, I watched his silhouette remain motionless until dawn. By morning, he collapsed with raging fever. A passerby finally dragged him to the hospital. Weeks later, news trickled through the grapevine. Ethan had fired Liv from Collins Group and blacklisted her across the industry. Overnight, the once envied executive assistant became corporate poison. I scoffed at his pathetic theatrics. Blaming Liv changed nothing, he'd welcomed her advances. What power did a fresh graduate hold over a billionaire CEO? His complicity had fueled the affair. As if sensing my contempt, Ethan staged a public meltdown. During a tearful live stream, he confessed every betrayal. When asked what he'd do for reconciliation, he rasped, "I'd sign over Colin's group as her dowry." The internet erupted. Spectators flocked to mock the spectacle. Only I understood his desperation. He meant every self-destructive word. Years later, at an industry mixer, whispers found me again. My rising star actress had just landed a blockbuster role, cementing my reputation. Between champagne flutes, someone mentioned Ethan's decline. Locked himself in that mansion after Hangzhou. A producer snorted. Drowns his sorrows in bourbon while his bored vultures circle. Pathetic. I sipped my drink, watching new ambition, hungry faces eyeing his crumbling empire. Let them feast. Some graves get dug one compromise at a time. After all that back and forth, Ethan was quickly ousted from his position as chairman. Away from the company, Ethan grew increasingly despondent, spending his days drowning in alcohol and chain smoking. It didn't take long before his health completely deteriorated. Rumor has it he's hospitalized now with some sort of lung complication. Vivi, you really don't want to see him one last time? Jeja studied my reaction carefully while sharing the news. I simply smiled. No. My voice held steady. Ethan and I are a thing of the past. Nobody stays trapped in yesterday's shadows forever. We've all got to keep moving forward.